Hello and welcome to today's class. Let's wait for a few members to join. Let's give them like the next 3 minutes. So you can maybe comment your expectation for today's class in the comment section. Thank you guys for joining. Welcome all. Let me welcome you once again and let's give other people like 2 more minutes for them to join so that we can begin today's lesson. So today we're going to introduce JavaScript in our full stack web development bootcamp. So in the previous classes, we've tackled HTML and CSS, where we've seen the different elements in HTML, where what this we started with the semantic elements, the different HTML tags, the different properties that they have, and then we proceeded to CSS and built some static websites. So from today, we'll be introducing JavaScript, and this will help us now to add interactivity into our websites because in the for the previous tags, that is HTML, it gives us the structure for our website, and then CSS helped us to style the content and present it in a presentable manner. So for JavaScript, we'll add now interactivity. Let's say, look at what happens when a user clicks a button, what happens when a user submits a form, and many more functionalities brought about by JavaScript. So let's dive into our lesson today. For those who are new, we normally use the KamandeDevHub platform and VS Code for editing. Great, I hope you can see my screen now. So today we are going to introduce JavaScript. We'll cover the basics of JavaScript and we'll begin by a definition of JavaScript. So JavaScript is a high-level programming language and it allows us to add interactivity, logic, and dynamic behavior to websites. While HTML provides structure and CSS provides styling, JavaScript adds functionality. So JavaScript was developed in 1995 by Brendan H. and it runs on major browsers, including Chrome, Firefox, Edge Safari, and can also run in servers using Node.js. We'll cover Node.js in at the tail end of our bootcamp, when we'll be diving into backend programming, because we'll be using Node.js for the server and Postgres SQL for the database. So, and also JavaScript runs on ECMAScript or ES standard, latest version of the 2023. These are the rules that regulates and keeps track of changes in JavaScript. As we know, like nowadays languages are dynamic and they keep on evolving and adding features each and every now and then. So where do we use JavaScript? We've said we use JavaScript to add interactivity into our websites. That is, we can use them in form validation, for example, checking if an email is valid, checking for numbers whether they are valid, whether they include the correct country code, and also can be used in interactive user interface elements, for example, sidebars, drop downs, modals. Look at sidebar, for example, when you open, for example, the KamandeDevHub platform on your mobile app, you'll see two sidebars, which you can toggle and select maybe the topic you want to learn on the current tutorial you're in, or the sidebar on the right of your mobile phone, you can select the language you want to select, whether HTML, CSS, or JavaScript, or React. And then JavaScript is also used in animations, games, and interactive dashboards. Look at dashboards that display real-time information. For example, uh, look at let's say dashboards for, let's say, sales or an e-commerce platform where the user needs to see maybe the number of goods sold. So we have to fetch uh, data from the database each and every time, because customers will be buying goods through the day, and the client needs a live feedback of what's going on in their shop or the traction of the products they're selling. Then we can use it in a backend programming language. So I don't know your understanding of full stack development, but in a web development, we have two tracks. We have the front end, which deals with presentation, and that's what we've been doing in HTML and CSS, and what we'll continue doing in both JavaScript and then React. Now, this is how we present the data to the people using our website, and then the backend is the other track which runs behind the scenes, or let's say how are these products that we're displaying to these clients being fetched from our database. How, let's say, for example, payment APIs. How does a user, whether using PayPal or a bank, how does the bank now process the payments from the user's account and then credit it to the platform that you're subscribing to? Those are the things that we look up when we tackle backend using Node.js and Express. Introduce JavaScript syntax, and for basic programs, we create them using the console.log. Uh, this is just a simple program, and we'll also talk about variables in JavaScript. We have different types of variables. We'll talk about functions, and then we'll talk about uh, data structures like arrays, objects, and classes. So let's begin with an introduction to variables in JavaScript. We have two main methods of declaring a variable in JavaScript. We have the let and const. Var was used in the earlier versions of JavaScript, but it was discarded, or it's no longer in use. And when we also talk about variables, we need to remember a few things concerning them. Let's say, for example, we have variables that we need to reassign or change them in our program, and we have variables that once assigned cannot be changed. For let allows us to modify a variable or assign it another number, but when you declare a variable using const, you cannot change the you cannot change that variable again or rename it. And also for let, it's modern, and then it's block scooped and reassignable. That's what I've been emphasizing. Also for const, it's block scooped and cannot be reassigned. I've emphasized on that. We look at variable scope when you talk about functions, because now scope is all about accessibility of these different variables. We have a global scope and then we have a local scope. We'll talk about them in this lesson today. So the different ways we declare variables are using the let. For example, this one, let age is equals to 25. Then we have const country is equals to Kenya. And then though we have var here, we don't use it for modern development. And then you see when we reassign the constant, the age to 26, it is allowed. And then when we try to reassign the country to Uganda, you'll see an error being thrown. So let me uncomment this and run the code. You can see error assignment to constant variable. So this is not allowed when you declare a variable using the const keyword. That's why the error will be thrown. But for let, you can reassign and you see the code runs. You see the age 26, age 26. Let's do this to see the different changes. So let age is equals to 25. And then we log it. Okay, so console.log age before, that is, we console log it before changing it or reassigning it. So before, then we log the age. And then we say age is equals to 28. And then we console log after the assignment. Okay. So when we run this, you'll see this one before 25 and after assignment. Okay, you'll pardon me, I saw a bug in the site which I hadn't anticipated, and I'll correct that in our later classes. You can see it's double logging the console results from the console output of the browser. I'll adjust that in our next classes. And as you can see, we said when you use the const, let's say const name is equals to Kennedy, and I try to reassign name, you'll see an error being thrown at the bottom of the results. You'll see an error because we said reassignment is not allowed in JavaScript when you declare a variable using const. Then, so let's talk about different data types that we have in JavaScript. We have a number of data types. We have strings, which are written using the double quotes or a single quote. We have numbers, which can be a whole number or a double. We don't have to explicitly declare the type of number because in other languages you'll have to declare. For example, in languages like Visual Basic, you'll have to declare the type of number you're using. It could be a float, that is numbers containing decimal points, or it could be an integer, which are whole numbers. We also have Boolean, these are true or false. And then we have objects in JavaScript. We'll discuss about objects. This now stores information in key value pair. Like for example, here the key is name and then the value is Kennedy. We have the key here for age is age, and then that is the value. Then we have arrays, which stores data in continuous memory. We have that is when you talk about memory allocation, or when these programs run in your laptop, they are first loaded, compiled, and then assigned memory slots. So they are assigned in continuous memory spaces. We look at arrays in depth, and then we have null and undefined. So let's look at a few examples over here. So for example, over this program, we have strings. We say we define strings using the double quote, or we can have them in single quotes. And then you can console log the name, or you can access the type of, if you want to check the type of the data type, you can use it using the type of method. These are inbuilt JavaScript methods that allow you to check the type of a particular variable that you're using. Then, for example, we have here numbers. We have the age 25, have a price which has a floating point, and then you can console log the type of age and then the type of price. Also have booleans. We say these are true or false values. They have a lot of application in JavaScript, and we'll see them into practice as we continue with this bootcamp, because first we are introducing the basics. We didn't want to move under any assumptions that people know about the basic concepts. So that's why we'll be going slow by slow. And then we have objects. We said they store value, they store information in key value pairs. For example, the name Kennedy and age. We'll look at how accessing or defining different objects and then accessing their properties. Also have arrays, and arrays can take any values. They can take strings, they can take numbers, they can be of any type. So for example, let's run this program over here. So when you access the KamandeDevHub program, you can access this content and run it on your browser and also modify as you learn. So for example, we are looking at the type of name. You can see it's a string. You see the type of age is a number. Also the type of price, although it has a fraction or a decimal point, is number also. You can see the type of person is object. We'll look at object definition and accessing the different properties, so don't worry. And then if you look at the type of student, it's a Boolean value. It had true. And then we look at colors. We are consolidating the colors. So we had the red, green, blue, and then type of color, it's an object. So from variables in JavaScript, we talk about the different operators that we have in JavaScript. And we have a few types of operators in JavaScript. We have arithmetic operators, which include the addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and the modulus, the one written in a percentage. So a modulus returns the remainder of a number. We'll look at also the examples. We also have comparison operators. We have greater than, equal to. We use the three equal signs for strict check or strict equal. And then we have the not, or the not equal to, with the period and then, no, sorry, the exclamation mark and then the equal, the two equals for strict checking. And then we have logical operators. We have AND operator, which evaluates to true, or which is true when all the two sides are equal. Then we have the OR operator using the two pipes. This one, the OR operator, and we have the not equal to logical operator, or the NOR. So for example, when we talk about arithmetic, look at our program over here. We have two numbers. We'll also look at functions, so don't worry. I'm just using this to elaborate the concepts. So we have let A is equals to 10 and B is equals to 5. So the arithmetic operators, we look at, if we console.log the addition, A plus B, we expect the result to be 5 plus 10 plus 5, which is 15. For this is a subtraction of 10 minus 5. The answer will be 5. I'm just commenting out the answer. When we run, we'll counter check. And then we have a multiplication. 10 times 5 is supposed to be 50. And then we have the division of 10 divided by 5, it's supposed to be 2. And then we have the modulus of 10 divided by 5. I want someone to comment on the comment section what they think the answer will be. So that will be 0. So for the comparison, we are checking at, for example, this is a greater comparison. Is A greater than B? So this is supposed to be true. Is A equal to B? This is false. And is A not equal to B? That is true. Then we look at the logical operators, which evaluate to true when both the left and hand side are equal. And we have the OR and the other one, the NOT. So let's run this. You see 15, 5, modulus 0. That one was true, false. A is not equal to B, it's true. And then this one now compares the two, and you can see the results. So after the operators, will be using them in writing different functions. So after the operators, we have now control structures in in JavaScript. For this allows us to write or to execute code after checking certain conditions. So they run up to when a function or when a certain condition evaluates to false. For example, let's look at this student grade calculator. So for example, we have let marks is equals to 75. And then we have different types of flow statement. We have the if else statement, we have loops, we have so we have if else, we have loops, we have do while, and we'll discuss them here. And the control structures now allows us to execute code until a certain condition evaluates to false. So for example, let's use a for loop. Okay, let's first start with the for loop. Which one do we start with first? Let's start with the if-else statements. And for example, this grade calculator, we have let marks is equals to 75. So we are using the if-else statement. So if marks is greater than or equal to 80, we'll console log grade A. Else if marks is greater than or equal to 60, we console log grade B. And then else will console log fail. That means when marks is less than or equal to, when marks is less than 60 or any number below 60. Okay, let me this first. So when we run this and modify the different values of 6, you can see this one marks we had 75. So the grade will be a B because it is between 60 and 80. So if marks was, let's say 50, let's evaluate what that would have returned. It would have returned a fail. So these control structures are used to automate repetitive tasks. Let's say, for example, this was a school management system and where we have to calculate marks for each and every student and return their grades. So we could have just called this logic for each and every marks that the student gets. Okay, so let's look at, we have loops. These ones now execute until a certain condition is met. And we have different types of loops. We have for loops, we have while loops, and we have do while loops. We have, okay, what are the loops? Let me see. Okay, let's first discuss these ones and then I'll discuss the others as we proceed. So for example, for a for loop, this is how we define a for loop. So for, and then we initialize. So let I is equals to 1, and then we have the condition. So I less than or equals to let's say 15, and then we increment our conditions. So I plus plus, we increment, and then let's say we want to log the numbers from 1 to 15. So we'll console log that. So let's run. Okay. Oh, sorry, so it's console.log. You can see we log 1 to 15. I said you ignore the double logs. It's a bug in the site. So like, for example, if we didn't have the for loops, these ones now help us to automate repetitive tasks, because we could have had to log each and every number from 1 to, we could have done console.log 1, and then we proceed all the way up to 15. All the way up to 15. And so, for example, an example application of this, look at when you have to send emails to the same email to 100 people. Let's say you are doing a marketing campaign. Then like you have to send same email for each and every person on your email log. So instead of you sending one at a time, you automate them using these loops. So that was the for loop. We have a while loop. So we can say count. So this one we are doing the while. So, and then we do while count is less than or equal to 10 to 10. We are still console logging it. Count, and then we also need to increment that. So let's run that. Let's see. So let count is equals to 0, and then while count is less than or equal to 10. We console log. Right. A minute, I don't know what's wrong, or could I have lost my internet? So we were here for the while loop. What's wrong with this one? I don't know why my browser hanged. Let's replicate the same while and see if it had an issue. So let's increment the count and then let's run. Now we see comment all those and see if our so you can see the count is now running like from 0 up to 10. So that is the while loop. We also have a do while loop. So let me emphasize something here. We use the for loop when we know the number of iterations that we want our code to run, and we use the while when we don't know the number of iterations that we want our code to run. And then for the do, we can so let me comment this. So console.log hello to make it a bit different. And then count. So we still have our variable, still have our count variable. Then while count is less than 10. So let's run this and see, and then I'll demonstrate something. You see, hello undefined, hello undefined. So let's count, we hadn't given it a value, so it's returning undefined. Now I don't know why the sites are hanging. Let me try to refresh. Don't know what's wrong with could be network issues. But I'm still connected. Page unresponsive. Okay, let's open yet another. Let's hit open another browser. And I don't know why it's giving us trouble. So we were here discussing the control loops, and we were in the do while. Do while. So do console.log hello count, and we define our count at the top. So let count is equals to 0, and so while our count is less than 10, we run our code. Still hanging. Know what's wrong with the site? Today, if it disturbs, we'll switch to VS Code. So we are here. So let count goes to 0. So do console.log hello, then count while count is less than 10. Hope it does. Okay, let's try VS Code. Let me teach the concepts now using VS Code because it's giving us some troubles on the site. I don't know whether it's the platform I use to render. I render on Vercel, so maybe the site is down, but we'll continue the class using VS Code. If you can see my VS Code, you can comment on the chat. Just comment with the yes, and then we proceed. Okay, is my VS Code visible? Anybody? Just comment on the code. Just comment on the open a file. Just comment on the chat. Okay. The file, I need a folder. There isn't. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, thank you for confirming. Let's continue. But we'll also need to refer to the site. We'll just be using the VS Code for demonstrating the code. So we're still in JavaScript basics, and we are in the control loops. So let me teach this, but I'll be writing the, okay, no, I didn't want to introduce the or to link the HTML and CSS before we've covered the basics. So allow me just to write them. So we have the do. So this one is giving me troubles. So I don't know what's wrong today. We'll continue regardless. Good. So we are in the do while. What's wrong with everything? Today is not working. Okay. It's like I don't know what's wrong with my editor, what's wrong with my browser. Okay. So we are in the do while. God. Today it doesn't want us to learn. So we are in the do while, or let me explain these concepts through the site without coding, and then in our next lessons we'll be doing now the actual coding when I've checked what's wrong. So for the do while, it executes at least once. Okay, it has now started misbehaving. So do while, it executes at least once before checking the conditions. Okay, so talk about the count. So let count is equals to 0, and then do that while count is less than 10. So let's name it so we can do something. So we are here. I'm saying the do while runs at least once until the condition is met, and then it exits. So let's talk about functions in JavaScript, and we discussed the different types of functions here. And before, let's define a function. So a function is a block of code that is written to do a particular task. It could be, let's say, if it's a calculator or a mathematical function, for example, add, subtract, multiply, or divide. We have different types of functions which we are going to talk about. So we're talking about functions, and we've said they are written to perform a particular task. And the way we define a function, there are different syntax or methods for defining a function, but we'll start with the default, which is you use the keyword function. It could be function multiply, and let's say for a regular function, let's say we'll talk about return values of functions, but let's say we console.log that, and we say 5 plus 2 plus 3, would expect this to console log a value of 8. This is just a simple definition of a function, but we also need to know about function argument and function parameters. And parameters. So when we say function parameters, let's say these are our function and function arguments. For example, a function arguments are the different or the variables we assign to the values that will be taken by these functions. So let's say, for example, we have these arguments of a and b, and then we say console log a plus b. So regardless of the value that we input into a function, when we run it, it will return the values given, return the results of the values given dynamically. Let's say, for example, we could have just console logged, or we could have just, this is how we call a function. So we call the function name. Oh, sorry, actually this was multiply. So it was supposed to return a multiply by b. So we call the function name, and then with the curly braces, with the brackets, and then you pass in the values separated by a comma. So we could pass 7 and 5. So we could have expected this to return a value of 35. So like for example, to maybe lay some emphasis on the importance of these arguments, we have, let's say, a function or a calculator function where we have the different uh, operations. We have addition, subtraction, and everything. So you could have just called in the could have say function calculate, then we pass in, we're just assuming it's a simple calculator. So could use a switch. We haven't talked about the switch, but we'll be seeing it in different applications. So you can use a switch case. It's part of the control structure, and I think I forgot about it, but we can talk about it now. And then we are switching case. And then the case will be, let's say here we are taking our operators. So, sorry. So for case that one, the operator is the plus. You could return a plus b, and then a switch case is supposed to be followed by, I'm forgetting defining the switch, forgetting it. Let me just check. So you define the expression you're checking, and then that way. So switch we are checking for operator. So if it was case addition, we could have returned do we switch between these? Why is it escaping my mind? Switch statement evaluate the expression, yes. Oh, I'm saying what I'm forgetting. Sometimes the syntax can be a bit tricky because I haven't been using this for a while, like the basics that I'm teaching. So we have the switch, and then we're changing the operator, and then we define the case. If it is case addition, we return a plus b, and then break. We need to put this break for each and every one, because if we don't, our application, if a condition is missed, it will run entirely. Then case subtraction, we return a minus b, then break, case multiplication will return the A times B, and then break case case now, like you'll go all the way to the all the cases that you want, and then case division, return A divided by B, and then but for here, remember, for division you have to catch the divide by zero error, so you'll have to check for that condition. So if B is equals to 0, you can throw an error, a new error on the browser, and then division by 0. Error. And then if there is no, the inputs are correct, it can proceed to that, and then break, and then maybe default, which is optional. You can have, let's say, all the inputs are invalid. And then when you need to call this function, you call it using now the calculate, and then you pass in your parameters. So you can have 59 and then 3, then expect the result that is supposed to be returned by this. So that's function, a normal function. We have different types of functions. I'll just briefly cover this, and then you can, at your free time, check at the to-do example in the site, or if you don't mind, you can give me like a few minutes, I go through it, and then you can run it on your end. Let's first talk about the different types of functions that we have. We have the normal function that I've shown. We have anonymous functions. These are functions without names. We have arrow functions. And we have callbacks. These are functions called within another function. And you'll see a lot of them, especially when we'll be learning Node.js. We use a lot of callbacks. And we have pure functions. I want you to take a look at this. And we also have anonymous arrow functions, and immediately invoked functions. Also have a look at this, and then when we find time next time, we'll have a brief look at them. But before that, I want to introduce these objects and arrays for the remaining like 6 minutes, because I've realized that we normally have limited time to cover these lots of concepts, but all of them will click together when we start building mini projects after I've talked about them, and then you'll just be seeing them in actions. And I believe that way you'll learn in a better way. So let me introduce arrays. And so for arrays, we declare them using the brackets. So let's say students is equals that array, and then you can pass in values. So let's say, and you can use the double quotes, or because they take, that is when we are declaring string values, they take the double quotes, or you can use single quotes, but for consistency, use one type of the one that you decide to use, because it's a matter of preference. So let's say we have students. Here we just have student names. Let me just say that. So we could have Kennedy, Kamande. We could have, I believe, Hasnain, Shekel. You'll correct me in the comments if I get the wrong name. And then we could have, let's say, Ishmael, Ahmed, and continuing, but they can take different values. But when you define, if an array contains strings, it should all the way contain strings. You cannot store mixed values in an array. Like for example, I store here, it's not recommended because it will be like meaningless. So for example, we can access, I don't know if this thing has started behaving. So console.log. One thing I needed to emphasize also, it's these are zero indexed arrays. Like they start counting from 0 all the way up to the end. Like for example, this is element in index 0, index 1, index 2. So let's say for example I wanted to access Hasnain. I could do console.log student names. You access them using the bracket notation, and then you input the value of the index you want to access. Let's say we're accessing Hasnain. That will be index 1 because we start from 0. Student, yeah, it's student names. So it's logging Hasnain, Shekel. We'll talk about different array methods later because arrays, we'll talk more about arrays in our JavaScript intermediate. We'll discuss arrays and the different array methods, but we can have how to push or how to add an element into an array. Okay, sorry. So we were here, so we said let student names, and then we had the different names. So Kennedy, Commander, and let's say I wanted to add students. We use a push, so you could do students dot push, then the values you want to push. So Kennedy, Commander, no, use different names. So we had Hasnain, Shekel. Then let's say we had another student, Felista, Nyambura, and we had Ishmael. So, and then we console log so we can say this is after adding. Then we just use console log the entire array, student names. So I need adjustment. Okay, students is not defined. Oh, it was student names, sorry. Yeah, that one. So you can see it logs with the names added in the order in which we've added them. And for this, just add console.log students names. Okay, so that's why we add a name to, we add elements to array. Let me discuss objects briefly. And we said objects store value or store value, no, key value pairs. And these are separated by a comma. And take an example of real life objects like students. So you can say const student because we declare them using the curly braces. Then you can have the name, Kennedy Kamau. Then you can have an email for the student. Let's say this is a school email. And then you can say, let's say, have the reg number. You can have, that was my reg number. And let's say you can have course. You can have, I was doing electronic and computer engineering. And so how do we access different fields in the student property? We use the dot operator, or we can use the bracket notation. So I'm running this in the next 2 minutes and I'll be done. So we access them using the dot operator. So like, for example, if I want to log the email, I could log student console.log student dot email. This will console log the email. And then if I wanted to access the course, we have student. We can use the bracket notation. So that one. And there are different instances under which we recommend using the bracket notation. This one includes, for example, when you have fields separated by comma or comma separated fields, it's recommended to use the bracket notation. So let's run that. You can see it console logged the email, and it console logged the course, and I've accessed the properties using different. And let's say, how do we add a field? This is the last thing I'm teaching. So for example, we want to add an year. So you add also using the dot notation. So student dot year could be fifth year. And we can see if we've added the year. So we console.log student. Let's comment this. So you can see the year field has been added at the end. So that's how we add. We look at more fields. In our next classes, we'll now talk about classes and do some examples. And after introducing classes, we'll also now start linking JavaScript to HTML and CSS and see how we add interactivity into our websites. So thank you so much for your time and thanks for attending today's class. Have a blessed and a good evening. Bye bye.